So at this point, what I'd like you to do is to open up a new file and just choose a very simple web preset. Doesn't really matter what the size is. And what we're going to be exploring right now is working with the vector drawing tools and the options that you have available from this little list over here inside your tools. If you double click on this, you can see that it'll be a two-column layout, and you'll notice that there are divisions inside of Photoshop, as I mentioned earlier. And what we're going to be exploring now are the areas right here where we see a number of vector drawing tools. And these are really useful tools that will allow you a lot of help inside of Photoshop when it comes to creating all kinds of very interesting effects. Now, first and foremost, let me explain the difference. Well, number one, if I were to create a new layer, and let's say I wanted to create a very simple circle, and if I then wanted to fill it in with some color, I could take my paint bucket tool and just drop a color in there, Command D or Control D on your PC, and as you can see, this is a pixel-based shape. Just as you can see here, it's just layer 1. I'm going to call it circle. Or actually, more appropriately, I'll call it pixel circle. So there's my pixel circle. However, you'll notice if I wanted to create an ellipse using the ellipse tool here, a vector-based circle, well, let's see what the difference will be. They're roughly about the same size, you know. Well, number one, you'll notice it's got this black line around it, almost like a stroke. Well, don't worry, that's just something that I'll explain later. That's the actual path. When you select something, it's going to show you what the path shape looks like. But if I click it over here, you'll notice that, well, it doesn't have that shape anymore, and they both pretty much look the same. However, there are some major differences here. For example, if I wanted to increase the size of this object, here's the pixel one. Well, if I press Control T and holding Shift, I increase the size of this object. Whoa, look at that edge. Not really the nicest that I would ever say you could create in Photoshop. Command T, I'll do it to the vector-based shape instead, and let's see the difference. Significant difference. Dramatic amount of difference here. Notice the edge on this, and notice the edge on the vector. The vector-based shape is calculated mathematically, as opposed to the pixel-based, which are created by, putting a number of squares together. Let's also see something else. What if I select this pixel circle and I want to change its color to some other color? For example, I'm going to choose, I don't know, something like red. Well, if I drop in my paint bucket, blah, that's terrible. Look at that pixelization. It's really nasty. It looks horrible. However, let's make this shape red. How do we do it? Do we paint on it? No, not at all. In fact, that's what this little icon is here for. Double-clicking it allows you to pick a color, and look how beautifully that is being affected as opposed to what we had to work with when we didn't have vector styles or vector drawing capability inside of Photoshop. So, as you can see, very simple shapes and contours and stuff that in the past used to always be done with the selection tool can now be done with vector shapes and allow you for a lot of really interesting possibilities. So that's just an overview. When you come back, I'm going to go through each one of these tools in greater detail, and you'll be able to see some of the advantages of working with these vector shapes.